our friend Sigmund Freud had an idea going of how kids tend to grow up, and he thought they went through certain stages. And the first one of his theory, well, I'll write the theory first. It's psychology, sexual development. Sexual development. And I need to clarify the word sexual here. It's not what we usually think of as sexual, of making babies and that stuff. It's anything that gives pleasure through the body, I guess. It's a lot more general than what we think of as sex. For psychosexual development, or Freud's term that he's using, a hug counts, because it's pleasurable to us. We enjoy hugs, and it comes through our body. Same with a kiss on the cheek, or hugging your favorite blanket or a teddy bear, whatever. And so that's what sexual ends up meaning in this term. So the first one, the first stage that he laid out, maybe that color, is the oral stage. And what does oral mean? Your oral cavity is your mouth. It's the whole area there. So in the oral stage, babies are fixated on breastfeeding. And I need to keep going back to the fact that this is Freud's thinking, and these aren't super well accepted nowadays, especially the Phallic Stage, which we'll get to. But they're sort of interesting. They have something to them for sure, but they're not completely accepted. So the oral stage, and you see babies put toys in their mouth, because that's their main source of I mean, it's weird to use the word sexual for this, but it's their main source of sexual pleasure. They like the breastfeeding, and they put toys in their mouth, and that's kind of all they've got. And then when they get a little bit older, they get to the anal stage. And anal refers to your anus, or where you excrete your feces when you're done digesting it. And when babies get to this stage, about 2 years old, then rather than just oral stage, they begin controlling their bowels, and they like this control. That's the big that's the psycho part. The psychology is this is all about control, and then this is I don't know, that's that just is what it is, the very basic. And so one of the facets of this theory that he came up with is that people can get kind of stuck in one stage or the other. And if you're fixated in oral stage, or stuck in the oral stage, that's the people who kind of bite pencils, or suck their thumb for a little bit older kids than should still suck their thumb, or I guess chewing gum, and this doesn't have to be like you're completely stuck and you just can't get out of the oral stage, but sometimes you have maybe an artifact, just one of these little nervous habits that kind of gets left over if your mother didn't breastfeed you enough. Again, according to Freud. And then the anal stage, you've heard people referred to as anal retentive, or maybe you haven't, but it's a term. And that's used for people who are very precise and organized and clean, I guess. It's sort of more of a bad term. You use that in a rude way, but organized is one of the characteristics of someone that went through the anal stage, and they they really enjoyed controlling their bowels, according to Freud. I keep saying that as sort of an escape mechanism, but um, the baby is kind of, or the 2-year-old, I guess, is sort of at odds with the parents. The parents want them to release their bowels in the toilet, and the baby can either very much agree with them and say, yes, I enjoy controlling my bowels, and they end up anal retentive, or on the flip side, I guess I'll switch colors for the opposite, they could end up messy and disorganized. Disorganized. And according to Freud, he always kind of said that early development in the first couple years, or a little more than 2, I guess, but early childhood really has a big impact on your life, and this is a couple of the ways that he said it happened. This stuff, and you end up being anal retentive or fixated. And then the next one, moving on, I'll maybe pick a new color. How about dark green? The Phallic Stage. And there's one later called Genital Stage, which I think is sort of the same thing. Phallic and genital seem closely related, but the Phallic Stage is when kids, I guess between 2 and maybe 5 years, start realizing that boys and girls are different, and they start, asking their mom if their mom has a penis and things like that. They sort of, I mean, it's hard to be really politically correct here, but it's when they start realizing differences, I guess, between boys and girls, and this is where the Oedipus complex happens, which I do not have time for in this video, but probably the next one will be all about the Oedipus complex. And well, in short, that's a boy wants to be with his mother, wants to have her full attention, and his father gets in the way, and so he's resentful of the father, and well, I'll get to that, I guess, but the Phallic Stage is very not agreed upon. This one also has penis envy associated with it, and that's envy. And this has been largely thrown away, I think, by the psychological community. It's seen as not very flattering of women, I guess, and it just says basically that girls want penises and they're envious that boys have them. So it should be said that Sigmund Freud, I'm drawing while I'm scrolling. Sigmund Freud was later found to be kind of obsessed with sexual things, and that's why sex runs through all of this, I think. He was also into cocaine, so make of that what you want. So, okay, after the Phallic Stage, pressing forward, we have a time of latency. And this is where just nothing else is happening. It's kind of not even a stage on its own, but rather than being all obsessed about controlling their bowels or about breastfeeding or anything else, it's just the kids are just, I don't know, nothing. I mean, they're still doing things. They still go to school. They still have friends. But there's none of these other needs going on anymore. It's just their sexuality is just taking a break. And I don't know. There's nothing much to say about that. So we'll move on to the genital stage. And this is what we think of as sexuality. This is the adult sexuality. So this is when we start having romance, and, well, you know, genitals, and you are more obsessed with your genitals than ever before once you hit puberty. And, well, I guess romance is sort of the secondary part, but sex is the primary part. And so if your superego that we talked about, superego, is, preventing you from having sex for whatever reason, if you're pragmatically waiting for a later time in your life, or religion, or whatever you have, then you'll just do the romance part, or maybe you won't even do that. I don't know. Speaking of superego, I want to point out, going back, that in the oral stage, this is all just ego, and in the anal stage, you're starting to interact with your parents, or, well, I guess id is you're born with that, and then you kind of grow the ego while you're in here of, will I put the toy in my mouth, I guess, or will I get breastfed? And then the anal stage is when you have the superego emerge. Superego. Because you have to interact with your parents, and you start. I'll have to erase this. I guess it doesn't matter. But you have to find an equilibrium of, will I comply with my parents, or will I do what I want? And I think that covers all of them, at least an overview. If I missed anything, I'll make a short review video. And next up is the Oedipus complex. See you there.